everyone, I'm Natasha from Floral and Brick. I'm in the process of converting my traditional cutting gardens to be more eco-friendly and to be mainly native plants. Some of the cutting gardens that I have are completely native plants, and a lot of them are a mix of native plants and not native plants. The reason I'm doing this is because overall, just because you see pollinators in your garden doesn't mean they're actually getting the ecological benefit that they need from the plants. They are going to be attracted to open flowers, but that doesn't mean those open flowers are what is best for them. There's a lot to learn when it comes to native plants, but the best thing you can do for pollinators and the environment is to grow native plants. So I'm in the floral industry, I'm a florist, and I would like to be the most eco-friendly and help the environment the most that I can, and that's why I am converting to native plants. It's also very fun because I've always wanted to do a more wild and textural style, and so I'm also excited as a creative person to be able to try out new plants that people have not used as cut flowers and see how they behave and what I can do with them. So that's what today's video is about. I have done a harvest of all native plants, and this is the first time on my channel that I have done that. I have been showing garden tours and talking about various native plants, but I'm very happy to now work with some native plants and show you what can be done. So I'll go through everything that I have and I'll put together a little arrangement. So the main greenery I'm working with is 9-bark, and it is a large shrub that I have in a number of my gardens. It has been just wonderful at pumping out branches for me to use. It's a really great way to get shape in larger arrangements or to fill out smaller arrangements. So this is 9-bark. It also gets a small flower, white flower, and then it also, we're past the flowering stage now, but I can show you what it looks like after the flowering is done. And it's a beautiful little seed head. It turns bright red right after flowering, and then it turns to this nice golden color. So some of the branches are more full like this, and some are more straight like that. The other greenery I will be using is dogwood. This again is done flowering, and so it has little green berries. And it's downward facing leaves, so it can be trickier to use in a design, but not impossible. Wild black raspberry is thorny, that's why it's sticking to this other stem that I'm trying to get off. Is thorny, but the thorns are small, and I found I could just kind of pick them off. So I will probably mainly use this for the cute berries and just to showcase what you can use in native plants that are available right now. Another greenery I have here is snowberry. This is another go-to for me. It tends to be tall and slender. It is a nice sage green color. And the flower is insignificant. I don't think I have one flowering in here, but it's just a teeny tiny pink and white flower at the tip. So not very visible in a design, but still cute. But then the real showy part about this is the white berry that happens after the flower. So that is nice to use later in the year. For now, I'm just using it as a greenery. So that is all the greens I believe I have. So I'll just pull those out. I don't always start with greenery, but for textural designs, this is all 9-bark. For textural designs, I do, because I want to have a nice base and get some shape and then add in the other textural things. If I was working with, oh, that's a nice big piece of 9-bark. If I was working with some bigger flowers, then maybe I would put those in first where I want them. There's no hard and fast rule. A couple other greeneries that I have here. This is Virginia creeper that I'm going to use as a drooping vine. Looks like a leaf cutter has been here, which is very cute. Perfect circle cut out of the leaf, so I'm not going to cut those leaves off. This is our native honeysuckle. We have 2 native honeysuckles, I believe, in Ontario. This is one of them, and the other one has a really distinctive just 2 flowers. If you see anything other than those 2, it's very invasive. We have a lot of invasive honeysuckle in Ontario, but this one's really great. Just have 1 stem of that so that I could show you. I did also, here's more wild raspberry before it has colored out, so it's cute little green. And this is a Virginia creeper. Virginia creeper acts as a ground cover, so it grows out of the ground like this. And it also vines like this. So it's a really cool plant, and you can use it in a versatile way in your garden. Oh, and then finally, last greenery is not really a greenery. This isn't the best stem of this, but purple flowering raspberry has this really nice bright purple flower that's not opened, but just to show you the color. And then it looks cute as a stem. Sometimes it has a little berry developing. You've got to cut this one at the right stage. In here you can see a little bit of the berry. You have to cut this one at the right stage so that you have some of those white developing berries, some of these little star shapes that's past flowering, and then maybe a bud just opening up. The flower itself won't last in a vase, but I still really like this. It is a sticky stem, but this is a really great native plant, and it grows well in shade, and it's just different from other raspberries. And it's not known so much for being edible fruit. I'm not really sure what the fruits taste like, but it's more grown to be showy. Okay, so that's the greenery that I have. So now I am just going to I'm working in chicken wire, and I do have a flower frog at the bottom of the vase. It's not strictly necessary for what I'm doing, but it was already in there from an event, so I just left it. So that stem was quite bushy, so I got rid of some of that. Sometimes I use short pieces of greenery just to cover up the chicken wire. But you can do that more at the end with this style arrangement, just if anything's showing. If you do it too early and make it too thick, you'll end up pushing it down into the water anyways, and there won't have been a purpose in doing it. So I just try to keep things asymmetrical. I go higher on one side than I do on the other, fill out a little bit around. Try to make it nice from all angles. I don't want it to be flat across the middle with a tall one and a short one in a V too much. I want to make sure I'm going out all directions because it's in a round vase, and I am going to put it in the middle of a table. So every direction, it would be great to have it looking nice. So I use the flower frog if I really want something to face a certain direction, because in chicken wire, it's often loosey-goosey and just spins around, and so you can't control that as much. So I use it for the tall upper pieces, and then anything I want to have a bit more secure. moving that one because I have such a bushy one over here. I think I'll cut this one down a little bit and have it be a bit bushier on this side. Okay, so that's pretty much it for 9 bark. I want to note about 9 bark, just this, before I put this last piece in, be very careful when you're cutting native plants. One of the things to look for is caterpillars start out in eggs underneath a leaf. So check underneath your leaves and you'd see a little cluster of eggs underneath if a moth or a butterfly had laid eggs there. And that is the whole purpose of native plants. So if you cut this many stems of the 9 bark, I did find some eggs underneath some of the stems, and you don't want to take that away. You want to be careful. At this stage of the plant, it's done flowering, so the flowers feed pollinators. And then the greenery is really important on all native plants because they feed specific pollinator larvae. So you want to check for that. And otherwise, as long as you're not wrecking the whole plant, and if you're cutting for something like 9 bark, which is a shrub, you're still leaving it as a big enough shrub to provide shelter for things in nature, birds, small animals, and to leave leaves for the larvae. But yeah, so just don't cut until you check the stem underneath. Okay, so that's the 9 bark. So I've just filled it out. I'll adjust some of this later as I add other things in, but as you can see, it's kind of a wild, asymmetrical, natural shape. Kind of face the front towards you a little bit if I can work that way. I will add the vining stuff last. So with these taller snowberry pieces, I think I will go very dramatic and even taller than the 9 bark was. And maybe keep them kind of together as a little statement piece. Then I would love to emphasize this cool Virginia creeper, so I think I'll have that right at the front. So that's pretty cool. I would like the raspberry to show its little berries. So I'll put one here. Where it has a bit of space to be seen. And I will put the other one for the people sitting on the other side of the table. They can also have a raspberry to look at. My purple flowering raspberry, I mean, I wouldn't probably use this stem if I was making this arrangement for an event because I'm not thrilled with how it looks, but I think for our purposes today, I will just tuck it in the middle. I'm not worried too much about that because this is just for us. Put my honeysuckle in. Now, I didn't plan this with a recipe. I just took whatever was available right now in order to demonstrate. So I might need to adjust some things later as I see how it turns out. I'll put the honeysuckle over to this side, fill out a gap that's over here. Like that. And then I'll just check around for where else there's a bit of a gap to use up some of the last bits of greenery. I kind of feel like it's still gappy here. So the dogwood, I like the underside of the leaves and how they're kind of silvery colored, so I'm not going to worry about how they face down. Okay, so that's all my greenery. Worst case, yeah, that's the right expression. I could add some afterwards if I felt I needed it. Now, because I only cut one vine, I'm going to put it at the side, and it is the type of thing where, let me just move this back for you. I would place it on the table, like wrapped around so it's visible on a tablecloth, wrapped around the arrangement so that it can be seen. But that's something I would do once I am at wherever I'm setting this up. So for now, I will just make sure it's in the water and just have it hanging out. Okay, so we have a nice base of a few different kinds of greenery filling out our vase. So the other stuff I have, I will now show you. Flower-wise, there's not a ton. So some of the filler flowers I have are Daisy Fleabane, which is a great cut flower. Little daisies add such a look, such a summery look to arrangements. So I'm just going to add this throughout. I'm not going to group it. I'm just going to have it stick out in various places as my kind of sparkle. And I'm loosely following the shape that I've created. Some of them are a bit strange, like with the taller, curvy parts, so I will just, well, I think I'll leave them today. One thing to know is they will open up if they're just a small bud. As long as they're white, they will open up. So I'm just going to put it in as it is right now and get the longest vase life out of it. It's a very informal look to let those kind of tall, curvy pieces stay. I think I'll keep this one kind of thick and just fill in this area here with it. Make it a bit shorter. There, nice. And I have this one loose one, so I'll just find an area, I think above the honeysuckle. To put that in. So I have a kind of gap in the middle of the what I was working on second. So it's not the back, there is no back to this arrangement, but it was the back because I wasn't looking at it at first. So let's see what we can put in there. I have this really cool sumac. Sumac is such a classic Ontario native plant. You'll typically see smooth sumac or staghorn sumac. This is staghorn, and you can tell because it's fuzzy stemmed and the fruits themselves are also fuzzy. Smooth sumac isn't, so that's easy to remember. So I'm actually just going to put this right in the middle where I have the gap, because I think that's kind of fun. What else do we have to work with? Ooh, okay. This is common milkweed. I am so happy to have this in my arrangement. I mean, that is my favorite color. I always call it dusty mauve, which isn't accurate, but I like calling it that. It just, for me, captures that color. It is so gorgeous. Look at all the details down here, and oh, I just love it. Okay, and this did not have any monarch eggs on it, and I actually haven't seen any monarchs. I have seen a monarch visiting some of my milkweed, but I haven't seen any caterpillars or eggs, so I'm still going to keep watching, but this one was up for grabs. Now let's find the spot of honor for this. I think probably here. So just trying to get it down into the chicken wire. Oh, wow. Hello. So, aren't you gorgeous? Wouldn't guess sitting around a table just have that as a talking piece. The whole thing is a talking piece, and I've had that feedback a lot from events that I've done where I put really interesting things into arrangements and bud vases, and people spend time looking at them and finding the little berries and the little daisies. And with native plants, it's even more like that because they're things people have not even seen. So it's really cool. All right, here's a go-to cut flower that I highly recommend you grow, native yarrow. It's white. Sometimes it looks like a tad pinkish, but it's normally quite white and like almost like a creamy white. And it will spread if you give it space to do so by clearing off stuff around it. and I just really love it. I've seen people kind of replace lawn with yarrow because you can mow it, but it's best to leave it flowering if you can for the pollinators. Yeah, so we have the one native yarrow in Ontario, and it's the white common yarrow. But what a gorgeous cut flower. So this one I am going to adjust because I want it to act kind of like as a lower down filler, not at the same level as the milkweed. And then I only have 2 stems of that, so I am going to put one on this side. Again, cut it down a little to just be filling a little gap. Beautiful. Now I have mostly delicate pieces left. I wonder what this would be like. I do love trailing vines through an arrangement. I think that's a really beautiful thing to do, and a really, again, nice talking piece for people. This arrangement is a little sparse on greenery, so I think I will pull this vine throughout. Now, okay, so this is White Avens, which is just a delicate little wiry stemmed flower. Its seed heads are very cool as well, and the flower is really cute. If there's little buds on it, it continues to open, so it is a great cut flower, and it just adds a little bit of gestural interest. And then I also had Yellow Avens, similar idea, only with a little yellow flower. There is a highly invasive, I want to say Wood Avens. It's also yellow, and you just have to be careful. I believe I have a YouTube short that identifies it. But once you see the wild one, it's easy to not mistake for the invasive one. The invasive one, like the wild one, tends to be kind of all these stems sticking out like this and not as focused on leaves. And then the invasive one it almost looks bushier. The leaves get quite large, and the stems aren't as sparse. And the flower that I've come across, the invasive one, is a darker yellow. This one is a nice, softer yellow. Okay, so I'm going to tuck some of this down low because I do have some gaps to fill. And then this nice tall piece would be good to work on the shape a little, bring it out a little bit this way. Sorry, so I'm bringing the shape out that way with the gestural filling that gap. Do I have any other Avens? Yes, a little bit of white. Oh, and I found some stuff deep in the water. That's always fun. So this is more Virginia Creeper, and this one actually has the seed heads. So I am going to use that at the end to cover up my mechanics if there's any still showing. So I have not put any Avens on this side, so I'll do that now. Try to get this nice texture coming out front. And then, so the other flower, okay, so that's pretty much everything. I just have a little bit more flower and grasses. So this flower is Enchanter's Nightshade. No, it's not a poisonous nightshade. It is a delicate little white flower. I just love it. When you cut it, it will droop. Even when you put it in the cooler for a day, it still is droopy. So I do the hot water, boiled water treatment on the stem for about a minute. And then I found that it perked right up. So, and doesn't droop again. So that's the trick for this. Now, I don't want it to get lost in this arrangement, but this side does have fewer of these little airy bits. So I am gonna just dot it around. It is something that you could group, like have it together so that it makes more of an impact, but I am finding I would like little airy bits to come out from the arrangement. Okay, to the grasses. This is super fun. So we have a shade grass, bottle brush grass. How amazing is this? You can see why it's called bottle brush grass. So this is so fun. And if you have a shady area under trees, you can grow that. And then we have horsetail grass, which you will see at the side of the road everywhere at this time of year. And it is so beautiful. It blows in the wind and it shimmers, it shines. It is so stunning. And people don't really grow it in their garden. Be careful if you had a dog running through the garden. If these pokey seed heads got in their nostrils and in their mouth, it could really hurt them. So that's really important to know. Okay, so with this, I would group it together to have the most impact. So I am going to tuck it, I kind of like it there. So I just group it together, make sure the stems are kind of the same length and that it looks the way I want it to look. And then I'll just tuck it in. I could have checked the other side to see if there was a good spot too for it, but I like it here, I think. There we go. Now bottle brush grass, you can use in different ways. It also would look nice grouped, but I think it could look nice spread out as well. Let me just see what the arrangement needs. Probably grouped. Cool. The final grass that I have to show you today is fringed brome. It's fringed because it has little hairs on it, and you do want to look for that if you have a grass naturally coming up, because if it doesn't have that, it could be smooth brome, and that is highly invasive. So you want the one with the fringe, but you don't want the very short one with a lot of fringe, which I forget what it's called now, but it is invasive and similar to the foxtail grass that I was showing you. It is very bad for pets, and it's often found invading urban areas. Like it'll grow out of a sidewalk crack, and so it can be a problem for dog walking, and it's not native. But the fringed brome is, and then this one is a little farther along, starting to turn a beautiful brown color, and it's a bit of a taller, thicker one versus these little shorter guys. And I let this come up all over my garden because it is a beautiful native grass. And then just find a spot. So this arrangement is really all about showcasing every stem. This wants to dangle low because it's heavy with grass. That's okay, it can do that. Maybe I'll put this one here as well. I really want something in this gap. It's not too bad. This little guy's like, no, why don't I move it to this side? Looks like we have a little gap here. Okay, that is everything that I have. I will now put in the last of this Virginia creeper anywhere that I can see the chicken wire. It's actually not too bad. Tuck it really far. It is beautiful. Oops. My hair. It is beautiful, and I would like it to show the beautiful seed pods of the Virginia creeper, but I do need it for this purpose right now because I didn't cut enough to make sure I'm covering the mechanics. Tuck that in there, and finally tuck this one in here. That should be good. Oh. So thank you so much for joining me as I make this arrangement and talk a little bit about native cut flowers. Embracing a wildflower look is really key for growing native cut flowers, and definitely you could combine with traditional cutting garden things. So I could pop a few dahlias in this, I could pop a few garden roses. Earlier in the year I could use peonies. Like you can combine. It doesn't have to be 100% native, but this is what the type of thing you would get if you did do native. Some bigger flowers that are available right now, Echinacea pallida is coneflower, pale coneflower, and it could add kind of more of a face flower if you wanted. I didn't have any cut right now to make this, but that is something that you could do. And then as more of the summer flowers come out, you can add more of those. I was thinking of the common milkweed as a bigger flower head in this situation, but there's definitely room for adding bigger face native plants in or combining with non-native. Thanks. Please subscribe to follow along on this native cutting flower journey with me, and give me a like to help me grow as a channel. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.